Evelyn Brooks, a seasoned 48-year-old senior account strategist, had dedicated nearly a decade to Evergreen Creative, a thriving marketing agency nestled in the heart of Seattle. For years, she was the quiet powerhouse behind Titan Tech, a major tech conglomerate that contributed over a third of Evergreen's revenue. Evelyn didn't just manage accounts, she embodied the heartbeat of the client's vision, skillfully turning chaos into coherent strategies and transforming nebulous ideas into market-ready products. Her expertise went far beyond delivering results. She was the guardian against potential disasters, the trusted voice that kept projects on track before problems could even surface. But 6 months ago, everything began to unravel. The arrival of a new CEO, a young, sharp-minded executive named Lucas, sent a clear message that loyalty was no longer the currency of success, efficiency was. Despite the shifting tides, Evelyn kept her head down, pouring all her energy into surpassing goals. In the first quarter alone, she smashed retention targets by 180%, secured a multi-million-dollar renewal deal without external legal counsel, and mentored 2 junior strategists who both earned promotions. Confident in her contributions, she sent Lucas a well-reasoned salary proposal backed by data, expecting at least acknowledgement. Instead, her message disappeared into silence. Each unanswered day felt like a quiet dismissal, a slow erasure of her years of hard work. Evelyn sat at her desk late one evening, staring at her unopened email, realizing the fight was no longer just about money, it was about respect, recognition, and reclaiming her voice in a world that had tried to silence her. 6 months had passed since Lucas took over as CEO of Evergreen Creative, and the atmosphere had shifted like a slow-moving storm, barely noticeable at first, but inevitable and unforgiving. Evelyn Brooks had sensed it the moment Lucas delivered his opening speech during the company's first all-hands meeting. Loyalty is not a business model, he had declared with cold certainty. Optimization is. Those words echoed in Evelyn's mind like a warning she couldn't ignore. Evelyn had always been the dependable anchor for Evergreen's most valuable client, Titan Tech. For nearly 10 years, she had built trust, confidence, and unparalleled results for them. But suddenly, the value she'd earned was being questioned, and the new CEO's priorities felt like a silent execution. She sent a carefully constructed salary adjustment proposal to Lucas, no emotions, just facts. Her numbers were undeniable, exceeding retention goals by 180% in Q1. A 7-figure contract renewal negotiated without legal aid, and mentoring promising juniors who had since blossomed into rising stars. But the response was nothing. No reply, no acknowledgement. The email sat unread. At first, Evelyn convinced herself Lucas was overwhelmed with his new role. She waited patiently. A week, then 2, then 3 passed. No reply. When she asked Mia, Lucas's assistant, a recent college graduate with bright eyes and an eager smile, about it, Mia brushed it off lightly. Oh, Lucas said emails like that aren't top priority right now. The casual dismissal stung far more than she expected. Still, Evelyn kept going. She followed up, even suggesting casual meetings over coffee or lunch. Nothing, just silence. Then the subtle signs started. The account she had nurtured for 4 years, Delamere Imports, suddenly appeared on Mia's calendar. Invitations with her name popped into Evelyn's inbox without explanation or warning. The client was being quietly stripped away from her control. She confronted Lucas calmly during a hallway encounter. Is there a reason for the account shift? I wasn't informed. Lucas smiled thinly, never meeting her eyes. We're trying to build Mia's portfolio. She needs real-world experience. Evelyn's heart sank, but she nodded, biting back her frustration. I'm sure the client understands. They'll be fine. It's just logistics, he said, dismissing her like a bothersome afterthought. But Evelyn knew better. It wasn't logistics, it was a calculated, slow erasure of her role, one client at a time. The quiet betrayal hit hardest on a Friday morning when she walked into the conference room, only to find her usual seat taken by Mia. Lucas gestured for her to sit 2 seats away, saying, Mia's leading this one. Fresh energy. The words felt like a slap. Evelyn laughed softly, barely holding herself together. She watched as Mia fumbled through a presentation, using the very script Evelyn had written for her during onboarding, while Lucas nodded with faux enthusiasm. Around the table, eyes flickered toward Evelyn, not with sympathy or contempt, but with the kind of avoidance reserved for someone whose fate everyone already accepted. Whispers circulated, responsibility shifted quietly behind the scenes, and internal emails contained comments like, "Evelyn will oversee from the background." The betrayal wasn't dramatic or explosive. It was slow, systematic, and devastatingly effective. That evening, Evelyn stayed late, not because there was more work, but because she needed the space to think. At 7:42 p.m., the office was nearly empty. She sat alone at her desk, staring at the unopened salary proposal email, performance-based compensation review. Q1 request, her fingers hovering over the message. Not to delete but to remind herself she wasn't imagining things. She had done everything right. Every achievement documented, every milestone tracked, every client win logged. But in this new corporate reality, loyalty and dedication meant nothing if you didn't play the politics Lucas demanded, and Evelyn refused to stoop to that level. Weeks later, things became overt. Another longtime client, Greylight Labs, was reassigned to Mia without any discussion. Evelyn confronted Lucas again, calm but firm. "Was there a reason? I wasn't included in this decision." He shrugged. "Just strategic realignment. Mia's taking on more responsibilities. You understand." But Evelyn didn't understand. She saw the pattern clearly. The slow dismantling of everything she had built. That night, in the solitude of her car, tears came, not from weakness, but from the exhaustion of silent battles. She grieved not just for the lost accounts, but for the message beneath it all. "You are no longer essential here." But Evelyn was not one to give up. She refused to leave quietly or broken. Instead, she began to plot her way forward, methodically, carefully, with the patience of a strategist who knew the value of timing. She reviewed every email thread with Titan Tech executives, every contract clause, every milestone presentation that tied her work directly to their success. She compiled evidence of her impact, proof that she was not just a cog in the machine, but the very engine that had driven Evergreen's biggest client relationship. Then, almost as if fate intervened, an email arrived from Marlene Tate, Titan Tech's VP of Strategy, someone Evelyn had confided in during tougher times. The message was simple but powerful. "Evelyn, if you ever feel undervalued by Evergreen, call me directly. We'd be lucky to have you." Her heart pounded reading those words. For the first time in months, she felt truly seen again, not by her current employer, but by the client who mattered most. Evelyn waited 3 days before responding, not because she hesitated, but because she wanted to be deliberate. She wasn't asking for rescue, she was preparing to reclaim her power. When she finally replied, it was brief but charged with quiet strength. "Hi Marlene, your message meant more than you know. I'd welcome a conversation, informal. For now, let me know a good time." Marlene responded within minutes, scheduling a call for the next day. That evening, Evelyn sat poised at her desk, nerves mingling with relief. The door she thought had closed was opening again, and this time, on her terms. The morning of the big call with Marlene Tate felt surreal. Evelyn woke early, the usual anxiety replaced by a cautious hope she hadn't felt in months. She chose a soft gray blouse, calm, professional, with just enough warmth to remind her she was still herself beneath the years of corporate battles. Logging in 5 minutes early, she stared at the screen as the video call connected, and Marlene's familiar face appeared, radiating the same sharp but supportive energy Evelyn had always admired. "Still keeping everyone in line over there?" Marlene joked lightly, breaking the ice. Evelyn smiled, despite the knot of tension in her stomach. "Trying. It's been a season. No need to elaborate." Marlene didn't push. Instead, she got straight to the point. "We've been reviewing our agency partnerships," she said, her voice calm but serious. "To be honest, there's been a noticeable decline in the consistency and quality we once took for granted when you led the charge." Evelyn held her breath. Was this real? Was the client, after all the upheaval, still valuing her work? "We're exploring the possibility of internalizing part of our strategic operations," Marlene continued. "If you're open to it, we'd love to discuss a leadership role here, in-house. The environment, recognition, and resources you deserve. You've earned it." Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest. The words felt like a lifeline thrown across a turbulent sea. But years of self-protection made her cautious. She didn't say yes immediately. Instead, she asked questions about the team she might build, the goals, the challenges, the company culture. Marlene answered openly and honestly. And with each detail, Evelyn's confidence grew. By the time the call ended, Evelyn knew she was walking through a door, not running from one. This was intentional, strategic, a new chapter born from every late night, every unnoticed victory, every moment of quiet perseverance. That afternoon, sitting in her car, Evelyn gazed out at the Seattle skyline through the windshield, stunned by the weight and promise of what lay ahead. Was this what it felt like to be truly seen again? She couldn't remember the last time. Back at Evergreen Creative, the silence was growing heavier. Delamere Imports had gone eerily quiet, and the Greylight Labs account, which Evelyn had nurtured through crises, was requesting a complete strategy overhaul, an indication of the internal confusion swirling under the surface. Lucas blamed market turbulence, but Evelyn knew better. She saw the cracks widening. Then came the coldest blow. Titan Tech abruptly terminated its contract. No warning, no negotiation, just a terse email from procurement. The news hit the office like a bombshell. Panic rippled through the halls. Emergency meetings were called. Mia was pulled into crisis sessions. Lucas paced with clenched jaws and red-rimmed eyes. The crown jewel was lost. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat quietly at her desk, a small, knowing smile pressing her lips closed. This was the turning point they never saw coming. Days later, a call arrived, not from Marlene this time, but from Titan Tech's COO himself. His tone was direct, no fluff. Evelyn, we've reviewed the leadership for our new Strategic Innovation Division. The decision was unanimous. We want you to lead it. She sat frozen. Lead a division? Build a team from the ground up? Full authority? Remote work? Flexible terms? A salary that reflected her true value? Her heart raced with a mix of disbelief and triumph. This was more than a new job, it was vindication. When the call ended, the office around her buzzed faintly. But Evelyn felt distant, almost peaceful. For the first time in months, she held the upper hand. The silent war was over. That next morning, Lucas emerged from his office looking drained and unsteady. His usual composure cracked, his tie was askew, his smile forced. He stopped by Evelyn's desk, voice tentative. Got a minute? She followed him to the boardroom, calm and collected. So, Titan Tech, do you know why they pulled out? Meeting his gaze, she replied evenly, I assume it wasn't the weather. Lucas chuckled, humorless. Come on, Evelyn, I'm not part of their leadership. Not yet, she said quietly. His eyes widened. So they did reach out. Evelyn said nothing. The silence said enough. He sighed, pacing. Look, I know things got tense. I pushed for leaner models. Fresh talent. Maybe I overlooked some dynamics. If you have ideas on re-engaging them, I'd appreciate your help. She tilted her head. 6 months ago, I sent a proposal outlining exactly what Titan Tech needed to feel valued and supported. You never opened it. You reassigned my accounts, undermined my role, and promoted someone inexperienced to replace me. He swallowed hard. I miscalculated. You were central to that relationship. Slowly, Evelyn stood. I'm not there anymore. He blinked. I accepted Titan Tech's offer. I'm leading their new division. Effective immediately. Lucas went pale. You're serious? Dead serious. A long silence stretched between them. His hands clenched. You're making a mistake. No, she said, voice steady. You did. Evelyn left the boardroom and the building for the last time. As she passed through the glass doors, the receptionist glanced up, puzzled. Heading out early? Evelyn smiled. Something like that. She wasn't just leaving, she was stepping up. Her workspace was nearly bare, stripped away piece by piece over months. No photos, no thank you notes, no certificates, her identity erased before she even walked out. Yet, Evelyn paused, took one last look at the hum of keyboards, the faint chatter, the heavy silence. No one knew this was goodbye. She didn't want applause or pity. No cake, no card signed by colleagues who hadn't met her eyes in months. She wanted her exit to mirror the quiet dismissal she'd endured. Pressing the elevator button, she heard a voice behind her. Evelyn. She turned slowly. Mia hesitated, then asked quietly, Are you leaving? There was a flicker in her voice, not guilt, not remorse, but uncertainty, a crack in the armor of someone who'd believed herself untouchable. I am, Evelyn said, calm and unbothered. Mia's eyes widened. So, it's true, you're joining Titan Tech? Evelyn said nothing. The rumor mill had already spoken. Well, good luck. You deserve it. Evelyn nodded. Thank you. She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed softly behind her, shutting out everything she'd once tolerated. Walking through the parking garage, the air felt lighter, sharper. The weight she'd carried for so long was finally gone. No more begging to be heard. No more shrinking herself to make space for someone else's ego. At home, she poured a glass of wine, opened her laptop, and logged into her new email account, evelyn.brooks@titantech.com. The welcome email sat at the top of her inbox. "We're thrilled to have you on board. Let's build something exceptional together." Her eyes stung, not from sadness, but from something unfamiliar and beautiful. Joy. Real joy. For the first time in years, she wasn't surviving, she was starting over. And this time, on her terms. After stepping into her new role at Titan Tech, Evelyn Brooks felt a profound shift, not just in her environment, but within herself. The pain of being sidelined and silenced at Evergreen Creative still lingered like a shadow. But it no longer defined her. Now, with fresh purpose and autonomy, Evelyn began to see the bigger picture, the true cost of corporate politics, the fragility of loyalty, and the power she had underestimated in knowing her own worth. Her first few weeks were a whirlwind. Building the Strategic Innovation Division from scratch was both daunting and exhilarating. She handpicked a team, blending fresh talent with seasoned experts, and crafted a vision that was bold yet grounded in the real challenges Titan Tech faced. Every meeting, every plan, was infused with the lessons she'd learned through years of hard-fought battles. She no longer needed to fight for acknowledgement. Here, her voice carried weight. But the change in perspective wasn't just about professional triumph. It was deeply personal. Evelyn found herself reflecting on her time at Evergreen, the subtle betrayals, the silent erasure, the way she had been treated as expendable despite her undeniable contributions. She realized how often she had allowed external validation to dictate her self-worth. How many times had she bent, compromised, or tolerated being overlooked just to keep the peace or maintain appearances? The truth hit hard. Loyalty was rarely reciprocated in the corporate world. It was a currency that could be devalued overnight. Yet, Evelyn also understood something else. Her experience had shaped her resilience and clarity. The very forces that tried to diminish her had forged a stronger, wiser leader. She now grasped that true power came not from titles or longevity, but from a steadfast belief in one's value and the courage to walk away when it was no longer recognized. As she settled into her new role, Evelyn began hearing whispers from former colleagues and clients still trapped in the old agency's unraveling. Graylight Labs CMO, a man she had helped through a disastrous product launch years before, reached out unexpectedly. "Evelyn," he said, "word is you've moved on. Congratulations. Honestly, we're thinking of making some changes ourselves." Others followed. Clients who once depended on her expertise were curious, hopeful, even eager to reconnect. They weren't angry or bitter, they wanted guidance. Consulting, a touchstone in uncertain times. Evelyn listened. She didn't promise anything, but with every conversation, she felt the legacy she thought was erased was very much alive. Her influence had not disappeared, it had merely taken a different shape. Meanwhile, news from Evergreen grew bleaker. Internal morale plummeted, clients began pulling away, and the company struggled to stabilize without her leadership. Mia, who had been so confidently positioned to replace Evelyn, shifted roles to a less client-facing department. Lucas, once so sure of his decisions, vanished from public view, his LinkedIn inactive, his presence reduced to hushed rumors. Evelyn did not gloat. This was not victory in a petty sense. It was a hard-earned understanding that when organizations treat key people like disposable assets, they risk losing more than talent, they lose the very foundation they were built on. Her journey also forced Evelyn to confront her own imperfections. She had stayed longer than she should have. She had tolerated more than necessary. Yet, she held her head high because she left with dignity intact and a future wide open. Her story became a quiet beacon for others, proof that power comes from self-awareness, from standing firm in your value, and from knowing when to walk away. Evelyn knew the narrative around power had shifted for her. It wasn't about climbing ladders or clinging to titles anymore. It was about owning her worth and the freedom to choose where she invested her time and energy. Months after her departure, Evelyn sat in her new office at Titan Tech, gazing out over the city skyline. The sun set in vibrant streaks of orange and purple, casting long shadows over the water. She felt a calm certainty, a deep sense of peace that had eluded her for so long. This was more than a new job, it was a rebirth. She picked up her phone and typed a message to a trusted former colleague still at Evergreen. Sometimes the most powerful move is silence. But even silence can speak volumes. Stay true. Keep your head up. As she hit send, Evelyn smiled to herself. Her story wasn't just about survival, it was about evolution. About reclaiming voice and power in a world that often tries to silence both. She was ready for whatever came next. The invitation from Titan Tech was more than just a job offer, it was a lifeline. A beacon of hope that Evelyn Brooks hadn't dared to expect after months of being sidelined and silenced. As she stepped into her new role as head of the Strategic Innovation Division, she felt the heavy weight of the past begin to lift, replaced by a sense of purpose and possibility. The first few weeks were a blur of meetings, interviews, and strategic planning. Evelyn assembled her dream team, carefully selecting experts who brought passion, experience, and a shared vision for innovation. She could feel the energy shift as they brainstormed bold ideas and tackled complex challenges. Every project was infused with the lessons Evelyn had learned in her years fighting to be heard. This was no longer just work, it was a chance to build something lasting. Something that mattered. But beyond the professional excitement, Evelyn experienced a profound personal transformation. The pain of rejection and invisibility she'd endured at Evergreen Creative still echoed. But it no longer defined her. She began to see her experience as a crucible that had forged resilience, clarity, and strength. The betrayal she'd felt wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a new chapter. One where she controlled the narrative. Her new position gave her the freedom to implement ideas she'd only dreamed of before. Flexible work policies, inclusive leadership, and an emphasis on genuine collaboration were not just buzzwords here, they were the foundation of the division she led. Evelyn reveled in this new culture, one that valued transparency and respected the voices of every team member. Meanwhile, news from her former agency spread quietly but steadily. The void left by Evelyn's departure grew impossible to ignore. Clients once loyal began questioning the agency's stability, and rumors of lost contracts swirled through industry circles. Mia, the young strategist once positioned to replace Evelyn, found herself reassigned to less client-facing roles. Her confidence shaken, Evelyn didn't celebrate these shifts. Instead, she remained focused on her mission. She understood all too well the cost of corporate politics and the price paid by those caught in its crossfire. Her own journey was a reminder that loyalty without recognition was fragile, and power often belonged to those who knew when to walk away. In her new role, Evelyn also reconnected with old allies. Clients who had once relied on her expertise reached out, not with bitterness, but with hope. They sought guidance, advice, and the steady hand only she could provide. Evelyn listened without making promises, offering wisdom and support that reignited their confidence. This renewed network became a testament to Evelyn's enduring influence. Her legacy was not confined to past achievements, it was alive, growing, and shaping the future of the industry. One afternoon, as Evelyn reviewed a proposal with her team, her phone buzzed with a message from a former colleague at Evergreen. The tone was cautious but hopeful. "Things are tough here. Your departure left a hole we can't fill. Wish you were still around." Evelyn paused, reflecting on how far she'd come. She typed back thoughtfully, "Sometimes stepping away is the strongest thing we can do. Take care of yourself." The journey hadn't been easy. Evelyn acknowledged the mistakes she'd made, staying too long in a toxic environment, tolerating too much neglect, but she embraced those lessons as part of her growth. Her story was no longer about loss or rejection. It was about reclaiming power, choosing dignity, and building a future on her terms. As the sun set over the Seattle skyline, Evelyn felt a quiet satisfaction. The long shadows reminded her of the darkness she'd walked through, and the light she'd found on the other side. Her story was far from over. It was a new beginning, full of promise, resilience, and the unwavering belief that true value is never invisible. Evelyn Brooks's journey from sidelined strategist to visionary leader was not just a career transition, it was a profound evolution of self. As the weeks turned into months in her new role at Titan Tech, she began to see how deeply the challenges she had faced had shaped her, strengthening qualities she hadn't fully recognized before: resilience, empathy, and unwavering integrity. At Evergreen Creative, Evelyn had given everything. She had poured long hours, creative energy, and strategic brilliance into building TitanTech's success. Yet, when corporate politics shifted and new leadership prioritized optimization over loyalty, she became invisible, a ghost in her own story. The experience was a harsh lesson, one that left scars but also sparked an inner revolution. Now, leading the Strategic Innovation Division, Evelyn found that her past struggles gave her a unique edge. She wasn't just managing projects or teams, she was nurturing a culture grounded in respect and mutual trust. She encouraged her team to speak up, to innovate boldly, and to hold each other accountable, not out of fear, but out of shared purpose. Evelyn's growth was deeply personal. She learned to let go of the need for external validation, realizing that self-worth could not be dictated by corporate hierarchies or fleeting approval. She began practicing radical self-compassion, forgiving herself for moments she had stayed too long in an unhealthy environment and for the times she had silenced her own voice to avoid conflict. Her leadership style transformed as well. No longer did she try to prove herself by overworking or micromanaging. Instead, she focused on empowering others, recognizing that true strength lay in collaboration. She mentored junior team members with patience and humility, guiding them not just on strategy but on how to navigate the complex emotional landscape of the workplace. One memorable moment of growth came during a high-stakes product launch. A critical campaign faced unexpected setbacks, threatening months of work. Rather than panicking or placing blame, Evelyn gathered her team for a candid discussion. She admitted her own vulnerabilities, sharing how past failures had taught her resilience. This openness fostered trust and inspired the team to innovate solutions together. The campaign ultimately succeeded, becoming a case study in adaptive leadership. Outside of work, Evelyn embraced balance. After years of late nights and sacrificed personal time, she reconnected with hobbies she had long neglected, morning runs along the Puget Sound, evenings reading poetry, weekends volunteering at a local women's mentorship program. These practices grounded her, replenished her spirit, and reminded her that life extended beyond the office walls. Her journey also reshaped her view on power and success. Evelyn no longer equated professional titles or salary numbers with worth. Instead, she measured success by the impact she made on people's lives, the clients she helped, the colleagues she inspired, the team she built. This shift gave her a new kind of confidence. When former clients reached out, uncertain but hopeful, Evelyn was ready to listen and advise, not as a desperate savior, but as a trusted partner with the wisdom of experience. She declined offers that didn't align with her values, choosing quality over quantity and integrity over convenience. Evelyn's story resonated beyond TitanTech. She became a quiet mentor within industry circles, speaking at conferences about resilience, leadership, and navigating workplace challenges. Her candid talks about being overlooked and pushed out inspired many who felt trapped in similar situations. Yet, Evelyn never lost her humility. She often reflected on her imperfections, how she stayed too long at Evergreen, how she sometimes doubted herself, how the fight had taken its toll. But she embraced these as vital threads in the tapestry of her growth. The contrast between her past and present was striking. At Evergreen, she had been a background figure, overshadowed by politics and youth. At TitanTech, she was a driving force, shaping strategy and culture with purpose and authenticity. One evening, as she closed her laptop after a productive day, Evelyn felt a profound gratitude. The hardships, the betrayals, and the silence had not broken her, they had refined her. She realized that growth was not linear or easy. It was messy, painful, and often lonely, but it was also deeply rewarding. Evelyn Brooks had evolved from a strategist fighting to be heard into a leader who commanded attention by owning her story fully. And this was just the beginning. The sun had barely risen over Seattle when Evelyn Brooks sat at her desk, ready for the day ahead. But this morning felt different. It was quiet, not the usual bustling energy of the office, but a stillness charged with significance. She took a deep breath and reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from the shadows of being ignored and sidelined, to standing firmly as a leader shaping her own future. For years, Evelyn had fought silent battles, the painful dismissals, the unseen efforts, the slow erosion of trust and respect. These had chipped away at her spirit. But each challenge had also forged an unbreakable resolve. She had learned to trust her own voice, to recognize her worth even when others refused to see it. That morning, Evelyn felt a surge of quiet triumph. She had not only reclaimed her career but had transformed the very way she viewed success and power. No longer defined by titles or office politics, she was leading with purpose, authenticity, and grace. The company's recent victories were a testament to this new approach. The strategic innovation division she had built was flourishing, teams inspired, projects groundbreaking, client relationships deepening. But more than metrics or milestones, Evelyn measured success by the lives she had touched, the young strategists she mentored, the clients she empowered, the colleagues who found confidence in her leadership. As the meeting began, Evelyn's thoughts returned to the past. She remembered the moment when her proposal had been ignored, the quiet humiliation of being replaced, the sting of betrayal from people she had trusted. But she also remembered the flicker of hope, the email from Marlene Tate, the unexpected lifeline that rekindled her belief. That lifeline had sparked a transformation, not just in career, but in identity. Evelyn shared her story with her team that day, not as a tale of victimhood, but as a beacon of resilience. She spoke of the power in knowing your worth, the strength in walking away from what no longer serves you, and the freedom that comes from reclaiming your narrative. Her words resonated deeply. Some nodded with tears, others with quiet smiles of recognition. In that room, Evelyn wasn't just a leader, she was a symbol of hope and possibility. After the meeting, as people filtered out, a young strategist approached her hesitantly. "Evelyn, thank you. Your story, it means a lot. I've felt invisible for so long. Hearing you reminds me that I'm not alone." Evelyn smiled warmly. "You're never alone, and your voice matters more than you know." Later that evening, Evelyn sat by the window, gazing out at the city lights twinkling against the night sky. The journey hadn't been easy. She had faced rejection, silence, and betrayal, but she had chosen not to be defined by those moments. Instead, she had grown stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. She realized that true power isn't about control or dominance, it's about owning your story, standing firm in your truth, and inspiring others to do the same. Evelyn's story was far from over. It was a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of self-belief. She knew there would be new challenges ahead. Corporate worlds are ever-changing, and power dynamics shift like tides. But Evelyn was ready. She carried with her the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. She was no longer just surviving, she was thriving. And this time, on her own terms. As she closed her laptop and prepared to leave for the evening, Evelyn felt a deep peace settle over her. The silence that once threatened to drown her had become a powerful force, a space where she could hear her own voice loud and clear. Her exit from Evergreen Creative had not been an end, but a beginning, a statement that sometimes, the most profound victories come not from fighting louder, but from choosing when to walk away, and walking away with purpose. Before turning off the lights, Evelyn glanced at a framed photo on her desk, a picture of her team celebrating their latest success. It was a reminder that legacy isn't built by staying silent or shrinking to fit, but by standing tall and leading with courage. Her phone buzzed with a message notification. It was from Marlene Tate. "Looking forward to our next big breakthrough together." Evelyn smiled, knowing that her journey was intertwined with those who truly saw her value, and that together, they would continue to build something exceptional. Because in the end, true success isn't about where you start or how hard you fall, it's about how fiercely you rise. The journey Evelyn Brooks experienced holds a universal truth. Sometimes, the greatest strength lies not in fighting louder but in knowing when to walk away, and doing so with dignity and purpose. Being overlooked, dismissed, or replaced can feel like a personal failure, but often it is a reflection of the flawed systems and politics within organizations, not a measure of your worth. True power comes from self-awareness and self-respect. It's about recognizing your value even when others don't, holding firm to your principles, and making courageous choices to protect your integrity. Loyalty is important, but when it is one-sided, it becomes a chain rather than a bond. Knowing when to step away allows you to reclaim your narrative and opens doors to new opportunities that align better with your true worth. If you find yourself in a situation where your contributions are ignored or undervalued, take time to reflect and document your achievements clearly. Seek allies or mentors who can support you and offer perspective. Most importantly, prepare yourself mentally and strategically for change, whether that means negotiating your value, seeking new roles, or redefining your career path. Don't wait for permission to be recognized. Create your own path and let your actions speak louder than words. Walking away is not failure, it's a powerful act of self-empowerment. It signals that you value yourself enough to demand respect and that you are ready to lead your own story forward, not just react to others' narratives. Remember, your career is a journey, not a destination. Embrace the challenges as lessons. Trust your instincts, and never underestimate the power of reclaiming your voice. When you do, you won't just survive, you'll thrive. Thank you for choosing to listen to this story among thousands of stories out there. Like and subscribe to continue listening to the latest stories.